Let's talk about how wasting my teens has affected me long term. Me wasting my teens and not enjoying them and partying and going out with friends all the time definitely had a long-term impact on my life. But you guys, I'm only 21 at this point, so I'm essentially 2 years out of my teens. So it hasn't been that long, you guys. But when I started business as a teenager at such a young age, I became so obsessed in those early years that by the time I was no longer a teenager and I turned 20 years old, I already had a YouTube channel. I already had multiple brands that have done multi-six figures, and I've in total done over 7 figures by the time I was 20 years old. Just to be able to do that was a very, very big advantage. Not necessarily because the money that it provided me, but mainly just because of the mindset and the things that it taught me. I learned skills that could keep me from going broke for the rest of my life, and those are skills that I am forever grateful for. You could take away all my money and everything that I have, and I could confidently tell you that I would get right back up to the top, probably quicker than most people starting with money would get there in the first place, simply because I'm equipped with the knowledge, and knowledge is something that nobody could ever take away from you, which is why I valued it so much. When I was younger and I was getting started in business and making all this money at a young age, I was really just focused on trying to get as much knowledge as I possibly could, because I knew the one thing that nobody could take away from me is my brain. Since I gained a lot of knowledge on this stuff, and since I made money in the process, by the time I was 20 years old, I was in a pretty good position to start doing a bunch of other things. Obviously, there had been a lot of ups and downs and negatives throughout the whole route, you guys, but at 20 years old, I did acquire a ton of knowledge from those teen years I spent grinding. So I would say the first long-term effect that wasting my teen years had on me was making me insanely knowledgeable about online business and marketing, which would provide a good long-term effect on my life, just because I would always know how to market something and I would always know how to build a website and sell a product from that point on. Once you learn the skills that you learn in e-commerce or in business, they're skills you could take with you forever. So I always looked at it as just another tool I was putting in my toolbox. Every failure, every success was just another tool that I was putting in my toolbox to learn from and use on a bigger scale later. I truly do not care about the materialistic things that money could buy unless it's going to affect my business and help me get closer to my goals. The only thing I will spend money on is getting closer to my goals, and I use this same exercise when I was younger as well. And that brings me to the second thing that wasting my teens had helped me out with. It really helped me establish myself in a way where I could put a big footprint in any community, in any area I really wanted to. By that time, and being 20 years old and having all the knowledge that I had built up, you guys, I was able to basically just plot my next move and make it wherever I wanted to be. Whatever it was that I wanted to get into, I knew number one, I could get connections to that industry, and number two, I had the funds to be able to get started in it, and also the knowledge to be able to maintain success in basically whatever sort of industry I wanted in the e-commerce space. Whether it was selling physical products, digital products, whether it was doing both, basically whatever it was, you guys, by the time I was 20 years old, I had known so much about all these industries that I could basically hop around however I wanted and just test a bunch of ideas and start trying to make things happen. At 20 years old, a lot of my friends were in college at the time, so I was basically just back in my hometown alone. At this point, I had made some money, so I wasn't living with my parents anymore, and I was actually living in an apartment. Actually, the first spot that I moved out to on my own off of e-commerce, you guys, this behind me, this little building. At this time in my life, I had, my successful business Vulu, right, which was kind of my big first successful brand. I was getting ready to actually sell that brand and exit it. But you guys, that experience moving out so young really taught me about life and really taught me about how important it is to actually get yourself set up at a young age, because if you do, you can learn so much so quickly. And I just started putting all my skills together and really trying to build something massive. And that would have never happened had I not wasted all my teen years grinding towards my business and towards my goals. Also, simply because the knowledge I gained over my teen years of learning e-commerce, I had set myself up with a thing that I could value exchange to many high value people. Basically what that is, you guys, is where you meet somebody and you give them something you know in exchange for something they know. I would do this all the time, and I still do this to this day, literally on a daily basis. If I meet somebody important, I'll try to offer them as much value as I can and help them out with as much as I can, simply so they might give me a sliver of info back that I could use to then benefit myself even further. Relationships where you give somebody something and they give you back something, that is a good relationship, you guys. So at 20 years old, I was able to walk in a lot of doors that most 20-year-olds couldn't. I was able to maintain conversations with a lot of high-level people that other 20-year-olds would not have been able to if they didn't sacrifice their teen years. I was also able to stack up a bank account that was bigger than a lot of 20-year-olds. So I also had some capital to kind of move around, throw into things, and, you know, kind of play with, which did also help out a lot as well. But above everything, the main thing that I learned from grinding in my teen years and the main long-term effect it's had on me is by far my mindset and my obsession to succeed. I spent hours per day, each and every day, studying successful people. The goals that I set for myself as a teenager were so large that I simply couldn't ignore them or not think about them, you guys. I had goals to build a school. I had goals to be the biggest in the world. Every single day, what I would write down in my notebook was, I want to be the biggest, most motivational person in the world. And I felt that every single day when I write it, and I still do to this day. And if you guys set your goals super huge like that, you are going to feel the same way. And you should set your goals super huge. You only get one life, so why would you not want to live it exactly how you want to live it? If it's hard, it's worth it. If it's tough, it should be. You guys understand that all these things you go through in life is hard either way. Life is hard if you fail by not trying, and life is hard if you fail by trying. But I would always rather go out trying than I would go out being lazy. And that's what you really need to understand.